Okay, exponent rule number 2, the quotient rule. Now, here's the thing about this. Anytime you divide variables that are alike, you subtract the variables. Okay? Now, when we multiply, the product rule says we add them. It's the opposite of the quotient rules. We subtract the variables. Now, we're going to start very simple. Let's say you have this. Here's an example. And there's one little caveat in there. Let's say we have x to the 6 over x to the 5th. That is a 5. We're going to subtract where the larger exponent is. The larger exponent is in the numerator. So that's the same as saying x to the 6 minus 5. We're moving this up there. Oops. So what we have left down here is 1. That's all we have left down there. 6 minus 5 is 1. So we can just go x over 1. And x over 1 is just equal to x. Anything over 1. So your answer there would just be x. Let's look at another one.
What happens to 6 and 5?
You moved it to the numerator. You subtract the variables. When you divide, you just subtract the exponents. Now, let me add this. I saved it on purpose. Subtract where the larger exponent is. Now, here's a big one. Since we already had the question asked. When you move a variable from numerator to the denominator, or denominator to the numerator, the exponent becomes its opposite. Let me show you what I mean. Because this is the big one. All right, here's an example. Let's say we have 1 over x to the 5th. Okay? If I want to move that to the numerator, it now becomes x to the negative 5th over 1, which is just x to the negative 5th. You see, it was positive in the denominator, but if I move it there, it becomes negative. It's the same thing if I had x to the 6th. Okay? That's nothing more than x to the 6th over 1. Remember, anything over 1 is itself. So if I move this to the denominator, it becomes 1 over x to the negative 6. So when you move them, that's why we say we subtract. So you can move them, but here's the key. Big one here. You never have a negative exponent in your final answer. Never, ever have a negative exponent in your answer. It's going to automatically be wrong. If you end up with a negative exponent, it is wrong. That is how we can move things. Now, going back to what we were doing, we're going to keep it very simple. We're not going to put the coefficients in yet. Look at this problem. Let's say I have x to the 7th over x to the 5th. Okay? First, where is the larger exponent? In the numerator or denominator? So we're going to move this one up here. When we move it up here, what is it going to become? Negative. So it's x to the 7th, and they're alike, minus 5, all over 1, because the coefficients in both of these are 1. Now, 7 minus 5 is 2. So that's x squared over 1, which is just equal to x squared. That's your answer right there. All right. Now, look at this one. Let's move it up some. Let's say you have this, x cubed over x to the 8th. Where's the larger exponent now? It's in the denominator. So we've got to move this one down here. And it's going to become what? When we move it, x cubed, it's going to be what?
1 over 8.
But the 3 is going to become what type of number? Negative. Negative. But here's the deal. You can't forget about that 1 right there. So it becomes 1 over x to the 8 minus 3. And I would advise working it out this way when you first start off at it. So 1 over x to the 5th. That's your answer right there. Okay? All right. Let's look.